Well, hello there. It's Dan at Dan's Fish, your friendly fishmonger. And I am going to show you a video today of some of my Sahyadria denissonii. It used to be called Puntius was the genus, but they've changed it. So Sahyadria is, I guess, from the information I have now, the correct scientific name. But it is the Roseline shark or Roseline barb or torpedo barb. There's lots of common names for it, but they're beautiful fish, and let's show them to you and we'll talk about them. Alright, so here they are. These are the Roseline barbs, Roseline sharks, redline, torpedo barbs, Denison barbs, whatever you want to call them. But they're in a 75-gallon tank, which I have set up very basically like most of my tanks. It's a bare bottom, and it has a sponge filter for biological filtration, and then a box filter to help remove some of those particulates. Obviously there's some in the water still. And then up at the surface there's some water Sprite, because I can't kill this stuff. It's amazing. If you have trouble keeping plants and you just want something to help the fish feel comfortable and to keep the water clean, then water Sprite's great. And besides that, the tank's pretty much bare, and they do great. That might be in part because I have a large group. There's 40 of them in here. If I only had a couple in here, they might be skittish. They are a shoaling fish. They feel much more comfortable in large groups. I would recommend at least 12. I know that you'll hear 6, minimum of 6, but that's an industry standard that we say because then people are likely to do it. But honestly, for the well-being of the fish, the more you can do, the better. I know they're kind of expensive, and I get it. If it's like, no, I can only afford 6, or I only have space for 6 in my aquarium, or whatever, I know why we only do that. But if you can get a larger group, you should do it. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to the fish. You'll see much better behavior, and they'll just be much more comfortable in your aquarium. I hear people tell me that they need a lot of cover, that they need a lot of plants and all that, and maybe that's the case if they're kept in small groups. Then they'll be scared and skittish and maybe need somewhere to hide and all that. But if you keep them in a large enough group, they're going to be just fine. In fact, these guys are kind of adapted to that. They're the niche that, like, say, shiners in North America have. That's kind of where these guys exist in southern India, where they're from. They're from the headwaters of streams and rivers in southern India, flowing water often, and very clean water, high in dissolved oxygen. They need a lot of oxygen in the water, so in order for that to happen, the water needs to be clean. There's not going to be ammonia in that water, there's not going to be nitrite in that water, and I bet you that nitrate is undetectable as well. So in the aquarium, of course, they can take some nitrate, but nitrite, no. Ammonia, no. Keep the water clean. Besides that, if you keep the water clean and you keep them in a big enough tank, I would say at least a 4-foot long tank, like a 55-gallon minimum. 75 gallons, great. Anything bigger than a 55 on up would be great for them. Then as long as you keep the water clean and them in a big enough tank, then they're super easy to keep. They're fairly peaceful. They are assertive though. I mean, these guys swim really quickly, and when food's in there, they will swarm all over it. So they might outcompete slower fish. They might hurt a fish with long flowing fins. Like I wouldn't keep them with fan-tailed guppies or anything like that, but they would do great in a tank with, like, say, rainbow fish. I've seen them kept very successfully with angelfish, other barbs, things like that. They'll do fine with other fish that are assertive and can hold their own and won't get outcompeted basically by a fast swimming fish. So very, very peaceful fish, but very fast and very assertive when it comes to food. So just keep that in mind. Now, these guys, again, look at a picture of a full-grown fish. When these guys get their adult size, they'll be absolutely stunning. They're pretty right now, actually, I think, but once they're full-grown, they'll be great. You'll notice there is one in here that has like a push-down face. His face looks like a loach's face. There he is, right there. I don't know why he came with the others that way. That's how he arrived on my doorstep. I had no control over that. But just be assured that if you order fish from me, I will not send that one to you. I'll send you a normal one. Unless you request it. If you're like, no, I really like that one, then sure, I'll send them to you. But apart from that, no. Excuse me. So anyway, peaceful but assertive, very quick swimmer, gets 4 inches or so, needs a large tank, eats anything. I mean, they do great. They'll eat flake food, they'll eat pellet food. Right now they're eating rapashi, that gel food. They're not real hungry right now because I fed them already. I only put that rapashi in there just now because I figured it would help keep them in frame for the video if they were over there pecking at it a little bit. But when they're hungry and I put that stuff in there, it's like a swarm of piranhas all over it. So flake food, pellet food, rapashi, live food, frozen food, algae wafers, anything that I've put in that tank, they've eaten it. And they need a good variety in their diet. They're an omnivore, so they'll eat insects, they'll eat crustaceans, they'll eat insect larvae, they'll also eat detritus, they'll eat algae, they'll eat decaying plant matter, so they kind of browse around and eat whatever. So make sure you give them a varied diet so that they get what they need. So what else about these guys? Oh, I need to talk about something which really bothers me, is that on the internet I see lots of people saying, and I read also a lot of information on the internet, but lots of people saying that these guys have a high price point and it's because they're an endangered fish in the wild. And it's true, this is an endangered fish in the wild, but that's not what makes their price high. In fact, these fish are not from the wild. The fish in this tank right here are from a large fish farm in Indonesia that turns out hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them every year. They're captive bred. There's also a large breeder in Singapore that breeds tons of these guys every year. There's breeders in Eastern Europe. The fish, if you're in the United States, you don't need to worry that by keeping this fish you are depleting wild populations, because the fish you're getting are going to be captive bred. Maybe very few still come from India, but I don't think so. Not in the United States at least. India's kind of clamped down on their exportation, and if they are exported, they're exported in very small numbers. And even if people are trying to smuggle them out and things, the vast majority that you're going to buy are from big fish farms. They're captive bred, so you can keep these guilt-free. You're not depleting wild populations if you keep these, at least not in the United States. In fact, I don't know of anyone that has sold wild Roseline Barbs for years. They've all been captive bred. They're captive bred to such an extent, in fact, that they're fixing mutations. There's a beautiful golden colored Roseline Barb that still has the red, so it's like a yellow fish with the red on it, which is pretty nice. I still prefer these though. I like the wild form. I think that black is really a good contrast to the red, especially once they develop their full colors and get that bright red stripe from their eye across their body to their dorsal fin, and their bright red lips and their bright red dorsal fin. Again, these guys are juveniles. They're not even close to being at their full color. I mean, they're still pretty right now. Those bright yellow tails are something to look at, but they're gonna get stunning. So anyway, really hardy fish, really easy to keep, and again, these are captive bred, so it's fine to buy them. If they weren't, there's no way I would be importing large numbers of an endangered species and selling them to people that just want a pretty fish in their aquarium. I would not do that. I would buy them and then distribute them to breeders to try to start captive breeding them so that we could preserve them, but I would never buy endangered wild fish and just flip them and sell them to people so they can have pretty fish in their aquarium. I just think that's irresponsible and unethical. So again, don't worry about these. These are sourced from a captive bred population. Anyway, sorry about that rant, but it really bothers me when people just regurgitate things that they hear without the information. And it's a big problem in our hobby. Just it becomes a myth, it becomes lore, And it's repeated enough that people just keep repeating it, even after things change, or even if it was never true to begin with. Okay, I'm done. I think. I could start again at any moment. I don't know. But anyway, gorgeous fish. Let's talk about temperature. I keep mine in the mid to upper 70s. These are about 77 degrees right now. I have read, I've never done it, and I don't know anyone personally that has, but I've read enough sources that say that they can be kept at lower temperatures, that if you have a low temperature aquarium, that might be worth exploring. You would need to look a little to make sure it's actually true, but a lot of sources that I'm reading are saying that they can be kept, 60 degrees, 65 degrees, down to those temperatures. So that might be worth looking. Again, I can't verify that. I've never done that. I don't know that for sure. But it's worth exploring if this is a fish you like, and if you keep your tank at a lower temperature, like in your basement or something. So, and if that's true, it'll help with the oxygen, dissolved oxygen content in the water. Anyway, I like these guys. I've always liked them. I'll never forget the first time I saw them. They blew my mind, and they still do. So I hope you enjoy them. All right, that's a wrap for the video on the Roseline sharks, Roseline Barbs, Torpedo Barbs, Sahyadria denissonii, Puntius denisonii. There's been lots of names over the years, but beautiful fish, peaceful, just super active, which brings life to the aquarium, which is a good thing in a lot of ways. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments about this species or their care or anything like that, please leave them in the comments below and we can get a discussion going. Anyway, thanks again. Bye.